All right, so what we want to talk about here a little bit is innovation. Your background, your experiences, I think can provide a lot of insight to advisors about how to deal with the innovation that's out there. We were discussing a little bit earlier with the Robo Advisor industry, how it kind of came on the scene and scared the financial advisor industry pretty badly in '09 and 2010, where people thought they were going to take over the world. And then it kind of swung all the way to the other side of the spectrum to where they thought robo-advisors weren't going to play any part anymore. They weren't going to make it. They're unprofitable. How do they keep on raising all this money? And now I think we're finding that middle ground of how advisors are utilizing robo-advisors in their practices. And I think that's due to the custodians adopting robo-advisors and providing access. But that spurred, in my mind, this innovation revolution, right? The robo-advisors did. That's when everything started to kind of come up to the top. Then you had Riskalyze and Orion. Orion has been around, but they kind of started to make their point on the scene. So the question I want to start out with is, what is the state of innovation in the financial advisory space right now? And then I want to dig into saying, how can advisors really navigate this crowded space that they didn't come into here thinking that they were going to be technologists. They just want to help manage monies and families. Yeah. What's your perception on the innovation that's happening in our space today?
I mean, personally, I think it's awesome. As most financial advisors will get, like, our industry's been kind of ignored when it comes to innovation for a long time, and our industry is very slow to adopt innovation. But I think we've seen a lot of that being changed lately, both on the consumer side of things, like with Robo Advisors. Like, that's obviously changing a lot of how consumers interact with our industry from an innovation standpoint, but there's also a lot of tools that are coming out geared towards like wealth managers and financial advisors that are really innovative and provide a change to how advisors can run their practice in what I think is a very exciting, good way. Yeah, there's a lot of nerves that come with innovation, just like anything. I mean, everyone's going to be worried that they're going to take our jobs and
right. Well, I mean,
things
I
like
think
that.
It's like the matter of change is always difficult, right?
Yeah.
No matter what it is, whether it's in your work life, your personal life, wherever it is, change is difficult. Nobody likes change.
I would say financial advisors are top of that list.
I mean, we're creatures of habit, right?
Yeah.
We're creatures of habit. And so I think that the challenge is how to best navigate the change to make the biggest impact on their firms, right? And so, when it comes to all these new technologies that are out there, and when I think of innovation, I think there's two sides of innovation, and we can touch on both of them. It's on the technology side, of course, which is what we're alluding to. But it's also I think on the other side of how to run a business, right? I think how you run your financial advisor business is evolving, because if you think about the independent space, 25 years ago, it was all about just managing money, like family lifestyle type business, manage money, that's it. Yeah. And now these firms have grown to where you're running real businesses. It's not just about gathering assets, like that is part of it, but you have to run a real business. So I want to navigate both of those, but on the technology side, how can advisors just start the process of navigating the innovation landscape and technology landscape that's out there?
It's hard, really. I mean, especially right nowadays, there's so many new technologies coming out, and it can be, overwhelming. And advisors tend to get, I think, paralysis by analysis, and then hide under the veil of like, oh, compliance, I can't do this, So then they just don't do it. But really, I think the easiest way is just like learning any new task or any new habit. Like, you can't start learning math by doing calculus. You got to start with like multiplication. So, what I talk to a lot of advisors about when they're exploring technology is, okay, what's your biggest pain point? Mm-hmm. Okay, I guarantee there's a technology or solution out there that gets rid of that pain point. And if not, start a new business and solve that pain point, because I guarantee other advisors are having that. But I mean, like, for example, like paperwork's a common one for financial advisors. There's a lot of great softwares out there that can, like DocuSign. Like, if you're still signing documents with a pen and paper, like, look into DocuSign, because that can save you hours of time, hours of follow-up, things like that. Like, that's just one instance. But start with like one pain point, and I guarantee there's a solution for it. But you may have to find that solution, but there's going to be other advisors that are ahead of you. That's what industry relationship groups are for. That's what like these type of videos are for.
Yeah, and I think that's what like technology vendor consultants at your custodians are really for. They can help you think through that process. And I think that there's a challenge on the side of advisors where they say, they expect it just to be like perfect, because like the way that they've done it in their mind has always been right, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's the best way.
Yeah.
And so when you bring in technology, sometimes things just don't work the exact way that it was intended or that you wanted it to, and you have to be okay with it. You have to iterate and be understanding of that because you're trying to make it better longer term. And like DocuSign, for instance, everybody has some troubles with DocuSign at times, but the majority of the time it works.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. And it's a more efficient way of handling signatures and documents from that standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, like a prime example, kind of to your point, is like, advisors may get upset when DocuSign glitches 1 out of 100 times, or whatever, for whatever reason.
Right.
But I guarantee every advisor has lost paper in the mail, has sent things to a client just to have them not send it back, or like throw it in the trash, or whatever. Like, the system they're using right now is not perfect by any means, and I guarantee if it's a pain point for them, it's definitely not perfect, and so that it can easily be improved. And if that improvement, even if again you're not getting too perfect, you're still improving and taking a lot of time that's was delegated to tasks that don't grow or scale your business, or allow you to spend more time with clients. Now you're taking those tasks and freeing up your time.
Yeah, and I think that the other perception is that these technologies don't come in and solve all your problems, right? If you don't understand the true root of your problem or the challenge, it's not a problem. If you don't understand the true root of the challenge, and you don't have a clearly defined process of what you're doing, it's going to be hard to stick in technology to solve anything, right? Because they're like, I just want to get rid of paperwork. But if you don't have a process of how you get the paperwork filled out currently and get it to the client and what you do afterwards and all of that, then just getting DocuSign is not going to solve it, because it's going to be so just spread out and scattered that it's going to actually become worse. And so you have to really understand your processes to identify, like you were saying, the challenges that you want to solve, and then go out and find the technology, as opposed to trying to find the technology to solve all of your kind of inability to create processes, which again, we are getting into the point where financial advisors have to run like a business as opposed to just a asset management investment advisor. And that's a challenge for a lot of the people that founded the firms, and that's okay. You just have to find the resources to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, too, if you think about it this way, like if you went into a doctor's office and they didn't have like a polished system for taking you in, getting your blood pressure, like if the doctor came in and was like, oh, sorry, I forgot to get your blood pressure, it'd freak you out a little bit. I mean, it's the same experience that our clients have. It's like, yeah, you may think you have a process in place, but I guarantee you've gone back to clients or things like that. If you don't have these systems in place, and clients pick up on that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leave a great taste in their mouth. So even aside from innovation, like innovation's great, but you have to have those processes in place to have a business, even if that's like just making sure you're operating with clients the right way, even aside from the business.
I mean, I think that, and that's where I think that there's a disconnect between innovation and technology and firms, because I think that they get overwhelmed by all the technologies because it does so much, and they think that they need all of these technologies and they don't know how to sift through it. But if they were just to take a step back and look at their firm and say, this is my highest priority. My highest priority is a better client experience. Okay, that's great. How do you go about your client experience? What do? You meet with them annually, whatever it is. All right, now we listed that out. Now, which of those is kind of the highest priority? Okay, meetings.
Yeah.
How do I make that more efficient? Meeting prep. How do I make that more efficient? Whatever it is. And then go find technologies to solve that, as opposed to trying to find technologies that solve everything. And I think that's the challenge of like an all-in-one solution or an all-in-one like encompassing try to find, is it becomes overwhelming because not one thing's going to do everything that you like it to do. But if you look at it focused, then you can go in and do that, and then try to figure out how to integrate them together. And that's ultimately that's the kind of the pinnacle of all of it.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So you mentioned Robo Advisors. From your perspective, like with these innovations in kind of consumer space, how does that affect financial advisors that are in more of the high fee, not fee compressed space?
Yeah. So I think that there's this whole perception that it's fee compression in this industry, hands down. Like that's going to be the way that it is, and I'm not necessarily a believer of that. I think that I think that there is enough room and enough opportunity for both to win, the traditional financial advisor and the robo advisor. And I don't think that the robo-advisor or the traditional advisor has to compete with the robo-advisor on fees, because the robo-advisor is good for passive investment management, can do some light financial planning, but ultimately when it comes to money, you still want a human relationship, right? And I think that that value of the human relationship and the value that that knowing that you have a human that you can go to and talk to and the emotional aspect of it is worthy of that fee. As long as you are able to provide that and you're not just providing passive management, right? And I think that I'm an advocate for financial advisors to continue to charge their assets under management fee. But what I do say is that they're going to be challenged because they're going to be required to provide more services, more value, more servicing for that same fee. You can't expect to charge the same fee and only do passive management. You have to do more, and you have to figure out how to do more. So the real challenge is margin compression. And how do you do more for your clients, for more clients, with the same number of people, so that you don't increase expenses? And the way that you do that is you identify the processes, you figure out some streamlined efficiencies, you utilize some technologies, some better processes, etc., to allow your team to elevate and do more and more of those types of services. What's your perception?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And like I've kind of joked with this with advisors all the time, where I'm like, okay, if you're only doing the same things Wealthfront are doing, you have so many other problems in your company.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's, plus there's, I mean, I forget the statistic, but there's about like 60% or 70% of the United States doesn't have a financial advisor.
That's unbelievable.
So it's like, it's really like, yeah, Wealthfront may be coming in and like all these robo advisors may be coming in and taking some market share, but realistically there's so much more market share that isn't even tapped that it really doesn't matter. Like just like look at the car industry. People pay for value. And like, yeah, there's gonna be people that only want a used Honda Civic that, you know, cost $5,000, but there are also people that'll pay, you know, $2 million for a Ferrari. Like it just, people pay for value, perceived or otherwise. And like, you know, you look at any industry, hotels, you know, just consumer goods. Like some people pay $100 shampoo when you can get Suave for $1.50.
I mean, there's a whole article about water and the price of water. Like water is the simplest of everything, right? Water is simple, but people will pay this extraordinary amount of money for a bottle of water, which is all the same thing. It's all water and it does the same thing. And
this is a perpetual fight in my marriage.
I don't want to get involved in that. We're not getting into that.
Probably
but
safe.
I think that you know, there's a study that was out there by Price Metrics that talked about advisors' fees, right? And what they did is they looked at two groups of advisors. And the first group was advisors that lowered their fee. And the second group was advisors that kept their fee, maintained it, or increased their fee. And the whole focus was saying, do people that lower their fees gain more in assets? And what they found is actually the firms that maintained or increased their fee actually saw a greater addition of AUM per advisor than those that lowered. And so you think about, well, what's the rationale for that? Well, it's because perceived value. You're lowering your fee because you're not delivering value, which the other people, your clients are going to see that there's a lack of value as well. And you're just trying to cover up your inability to provide increased servicing and value, et cetera, to your clients. And so it's, in my mind, I'm like, if you want to maintain your fee, then earn your fee. And the way you earn your fee is by having amazing customer service, differentiated value, and a differentiated service model in the sense of what services you're providing to your clients, which means that you may have to provide estate planning, tax planning, you know, charitable planning, whatever it may be, to these people for that same fee. And you better figure out how to do it in a cost-effective way, or your margins are just going to get squeezed.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it doesn't even take a lot to have an increase in value, like from the client's perspective. Like something I've started doing with clients is even just sending follow-up emails from like a conversation where that just says like, okay, here's what we talked about. Here are my next steps, your next steps as the client, and here's our next meeting. And every client I've started doing this with is like, oh my God, this is so nice. Like
they've never seen it before. And it's so funny. It's just like these simple things. And some of the things that we're talking about, and I'd love to kind of hop into that, some technologies that are not necessarily quote unquote financial advisor technologies or wealth management technologies that can be utilized in that way. And you know, everybody says that video is this for clients is like it's not white glove enough, right?
Yeah.
It's a disconnect from, and I agree. I think that there's a value of meeting in person, but I think that there's a value in video. And if you combine them, they don't have to be. It's not like it's not black or white. Too often in this industry, we think it's black or white. And we were talking about how you can use video to just have a quick follow up, right? Do a screen share, show them their account, do a video, and then send it off, right? I mean, that's something that you do with some of your clients as well.
Yeah. I mean, something I do too, and started implementing this, and I think it's like clients again love it, and it's one of the small tasks that actually saves me time, improves the client experience. It's like a win-win. So there's this like software called Loom. I think it's like useloom.com, but basically it's a Chrome app that allows you to like record your screen, and then you can also like turn on video so they can like wave to the camera. But then it creates like a cloud video that you can just store it on the cloud, like in your login, but you can share that link, and then it embeds it right into an email, etc. And so like I'll do even simple things like if I'm sending a DocuSign to a client that they need to fill in some information, just while I'm doing that DocuSign, I'll just like record the video, 30 seconds of me just saying, hey, look out for section 6. Like you'll need to fill in ABC. This is going to be coming over here in just a second. Just don't miss this.
Yep.
And then I'll send the DocuSign, send a quick email that just says, hey, watch this video before you fill out the DocuSign.
Yep.
And every client's like, that's so cool. Like,
yep. They love it.
Yeah, they love it.
But to that point, so the like Loom, there's another company called Vidyard that's out there. There's another company called Hippo Video. There's a lot of these companies that are out there doing it. And I've done that in the past when I was managing clients. Was like Social Security, for instance, is a confusing topic. But we had a spreadsheet that we were able to build and walk them through when to take it and how you could do the file and suspend. And it was a similar avenue, right? Yeah. It's a difficult thing for them to understand. I can write it all out, or I can just give them a link of the video, talk it out. They see it. They have that better connection with it. They can watch it as many times as they need to, and when they watch it, they understand it. But then they may forget, a couple days later, they can go back and watch it again as opposed to emailing you or calling you. Be like, what did we talk about in the meeting again? I want to go do Social Security. And you're able just to have that efficiency. And it's like a nice touch point that's differentiated, it's valuable, and it keeps them staying with you. And it takes time off your plate as well. I mean, you were saying when we were talking about this earlier is that you were able to do all of your quarterly reviews in basically 2 hours.
Yeah.
And send them out.
Yeah.
Right from there.
Yeah. So basically what I'll do is I'll just like review their performance instead of just sending them like a template email that has like their quarterly statement and stuff like that, and then getting 100 questions back and forth, like which just wastes a lot of time, theirs and mine. What I'll do is I'll just basically record a quick video showing their performance, and then just talk through like, hey, here's what we saw last quarter, and here's what my views on the market. Here's why the market did what it did last quarter, and just takes me 2 minutes per client. Send that video off, and like I usually get a response like, "Oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sending."
And you're done.
Yeah, like, no real questions. Like unless it's like sometimes even in the video, like the only time I get questions are like, "Hey, based on this, like I think we should go more conservative or whatever because of where the market is. Like, let me know a time we can talk more thoroughly on this."
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, send me your schedule, Josh.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to do, and like as we think about like how to utilize these technologies, and this is kind of the thought process that you have to have as a firm in order to go through it. So you're talking about sending out you're sending out these videos, and you're worried about all these different questions that may come back. Well, there's an ability for you to say, well, if there's some follow-up answers that you need from the client, even to make it more efficient for them and us, because in all honesty, they don't want to have to schedule around, to get on the call, especially if they're working families, et cetera. And if they're retirees and they're traveling, they're like, some of them want to just talk because they have a lot of time on their hands. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that would just rather just do it effectively and efficiently on whatever they're doing. Yeah. If you can send that video, you can have the questions in the video and say, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we go more conservative. This is why. Just hit this link. And you can send a Typeform link that says, are you okay going more conservative? Yes or no? No? Okay, why not? You have that, and you can ask other questions like, have you changed your pension? Is your pension still the same? Has your Social Security been updated? Whatever it may be. And they can just fill that out, send it to you, and that can go populate into your CRM. And just like that, you've had a whole review meeting.
Yep.
In a span of 10 minutes of your time.
Yep.
And the client appreciates it because it's different, it's innovative, and it saves them time. They don't have to travel to your office. They don't have to reschedule their whole day. And it keeps you showing that you're staying on top of their situation.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of those other technologies that you think that advisors could look at to better their practice that you've talked to other firms about that aren't necessarily those kind of wealth management, financial advisor technologies?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's softwares in both spaces that I think every advisor could utilize. I mean, what it breaks down to for me is like the primary ones are, are you effectively using communication? So what communication tools? How are you staying on top of client tasks? And like how are you staying on top of client data and stuff like that? So a lot of times, frankly, I haven't seen, like there's some that are really good in the financial advisor space, but there's some that are just not. Like for me, a project management software, like I know there have been some coming out, but to me, they've just been lacking in terms of flexibility and things like that. At least what I've seen so far. I haven't done too much research, so I don't want to get a lot of haters in the comments or anything like that. So bear with me. But
hey, hating comments is still that means that people are engaging. That's okay. That's all right.
But like, so I use Asana, which is like a not industry software, and to me, it just has a lot of flexibility, so I can make it exactly what I want it to be in terms of my client management, and that's how I can stay on top of proactive tasks. So like I have just basically a template for like onboarding every new client, and then all the tasks that are in there for like an onboarding. And like I work with a paraplanner virtually, so I'm able to share communicate back and forth and share all the tasks and make sure we're both staying on top of things. And then like I'll do that for like investment onboarding. I'll do that for pretty much any task like you possibly imagine, all within Asana. And it's great, but those like that, every financial advisor I think should be using some sort of software similar to Asana, whether it's, I mean, there's so many out there. There's Monday.com, Asana, Airtable, like Trello, so many of them. But pick one, find one that works for your system, and it doesn't need to be an industry software necessarily. It just needs to be one that does the tasks you need it to do in the most efficient way possible. And that's what I think a lot of advisors get hung up on, is that they just again, kind of paralysis by analysis, get hung up and then blame compliance. And it's like, oh, I can't use a non-industry software because of compliance. It's like, no, they all have the same encryption. It's all the same data management. It's just, you have to do a little bit of due diligence just to confirm that. But
right. And I think that a lot of it comes from like the SEC. They're all worried about the SEC, but you have to remember, as long as realize what data you're putting in there, right? As long as you're not putting PII type of information in there, but you can put their name, and that helps you drive it through your CRM. Your CRM may be having all the other information, and your custodial data feeds do as well. The other thing that you have to think about is you have to put some thought into, again, what is it trying to solve? Like in your situation, it is solving the process of onboarding clients and task management. It's a more effective tool than the CRM task management. And the funny thing is that there's so many technologies out there that companies that are huge companies are utilizing, that are making them so efficient and effective, that advisors have stayed away from for no reason other than that they feel that they're not for financial advisors. And that financial advisors, we're all doing the same thing. It's just slightly different. Everybody has tasks. Everybody is communicating with clients. All service-based businesses are communicating with clients.
Yep.
All service-based businesses are doing follow-ups. All service-based businesses are trying to deliver value. So why can't we figure out how to use those tools to impact our business in a better and differentiated way? Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and realistically, all innovation is, and all these technology tools are just a way for you to add, like kind of going back to our value conversation, are a way for you to add more value to your clients. And if it's, better organization, so you stay on top of all your tasks, don't have to and just have a smooth process to your clients. That's using innovation to provide a better client experience. If it's freeing up time, that's more time you can dedicate to going deeper with your clients. All these things, you don't have to be scared of compliance, because realistically nowadays and data security is such a big issue for pretty much every software out there, that no software, even with PII, they're all having to all softwares are having to protect PII. Yep. So it's
and they're all on AWS anyway, so it's all AWS security.
It's all the same.
And I think that the major point to take also is if your CRM is not solving for what you need and you still are seeing inefficiencies, then that's okay to look outside. You don't have to just stick in that and be like, it's just so difficult to do it. Find a solution, and then you can figure out how to get them to work together with your processes to streamline everything and bring everything together. Yeah,
and I mean, this may be getting way too in the weeds, but there's even nowadays there's softwares that connect to those softwares, like Zapier, or hire a virtual assistant or a paraplanner that can just someone low cost that can just manually do it for you so you're not spending your time. Whatever the case may be, there are ways to connect two separate softwares and make them work seamlessly.
I think that it all kind of comes back down to, if you want to take advantage of the innovation in the space, you have to look outside of the kind of the traditional technologies, one, but two, you have to have processes in order to understand what you need solved and how you want it solved. Because if you don't, there's nothing out there that's a silver bullet that's just going to solve all of your unknown, like this is just overwhelming type stuff. There's nothing out there to solve that.
Yeah, and it's it's just basically, once you have this process in place, everybody's got bottlenecks.
Yep.
I don't care how smooth sailing you are, there's always room for improvement, and there's always ways to improve those bottlenecks. And it's just like, okay, you don't need to figure out everything all at once. Solve one problem.
Yep.
That frees up a little time, which frees you up more time to solve the next problem. And then next thing you know, you're getting very nitty gritty about what problems you're solving.
Same advice that advisors give to clients that have credit card debt. Start with the smallest one then you have some more money to put towards the next credit card debt. And what happens? It's a snowball. And then ultimately you look back and you're like, wow, that was incredible.
Yeah, the technology
Take our own
snowball.
advice. Exactly.
It's a debt snowball.
We're going to trademark that, the technology snowball effect for innovation. So exactly, it's very simple. We got it trademarked. So that's some ways that advisors can utilize technologies and innovation that's going on in the space. And I'll let you have the final word here. Is what's the future of innovation in our space? How do you see? What is it? When we sit here, in 10 years and we're talking about innovation, how's the conversation different?
I think it's just going to get more and more exciting, honestly. I think it's scary at the same time. Like, there's going to be, I guarantee, bigger players than Wealthfront and Betterment coming in at some point. Like, it's only a matter of time to Amazon it's like, yeah, I'm gonna come in and throw a bunch of money into the field. But that being said, again, the pool is huge. Mm-hmm. And it's so untapped, and there's always going to be needs for that human connection. And there's always going to be ways to provide greater value. And I think technology will always be a way to provide greater value. And I think it's just the tools that are going to be there to provide greater value are going to just be better.
Yeah.
Like with AI and things like that, the amount of detail you'll be able to digest so quickly, like you'll be able to go through insurance statements and things like that in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
It's kind of where I see things going, or tax documents in a matter of seconds. I mean, frankly, we're already getting there where Holistaplan can go through a tax document in a matter of minutes and give you some basic recommendations. Like those sort of things, I think, are just going to get better and better and better. And then so you can focus on really the strategy and the client impact and things like that you just can't put in a software. Like you can't have deep conversation through a software. Yep. But you can use those to have deeper conversations. And I think that's what's going to be really exciting. Really where I see innovation going is we're just going to get better and better and better and be able to provide deeper relationships, better client experience, on down the line.
I think that's the point, right? Is that technology is not replacing the human. It's making the human be better at doing what they're really good at, which is EQ, emotional connection and intelligence, and also the explanation of what the technology is doing, right? And what it's saying, but it's going to empower them. So it's an enablement tool, not a replacement tool. And I think that's, if you take that view into innovation, your firm is going to be exponentially further away than the competition when it comes 10 years from now, because you're going to be such a bigger adopter of technology.
Although I will say this, I think advisors, one takeaway with innovation they'll need to do over the next 10 years is learn to adapt. And that, if you're doing things that your business value add is only something that a technology can do, you're not doing things right.
Yeah,
we are in the client relationship business. Yeah, you may be a great stock picker, but frankly, 5 years from now, AI is going to be better.
Yeah,
and probably already is. We just, hedge funds are hoarding it, so we don't have access to that. So, but yeah, if that's your only value add, pretty soon a quantum computer is going to be able to take all the data that makes you better right now, and they're going to be able to do it just as well in a millisecond.
Yep. It's a matter of understanding what computers can do better and what humans can do better, and let the computers do what computers do better, and let humans do what humans do better, and then that's how you harmoniously live together. And that's one of it.
Yep.
A computer can analyze data and historical data and trend data much faster than you will ever be able to do.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of it. You
Yeah.
can try to beat it, but you can't. And just let that be. And say, okay, fine, that's fine. They'll give me advice and I'll interpret it and I'll go and take that.
Yep.
What a computer's not going to be able to do is have a communication with a retiree that's nervous about leaving work, or a spouse, a widow who just lost their spouse, or whatever it may be, or a young adult that's trying to buy a house and trying to figure out how to navigate that process. The computer's not going to be good at that.
Yeah.
That's where you're better at as a human, and that's what you need to take your stance and put in your ground. And how am I going to be better and deliver deeper value in that way?